Welcome back to The Book Stop. I'm so excited to talk about today's episode. Fair warning moving forward, this podcast does contain spoilers as we go over major events within the novels. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow us on Apple, Spotify, and Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Welcome back, kings, queens, and, just plain royalty. Today, we are back with my friend Tim.
Hi.
Welcome to Pride Month.
Gosh.
First episode of Pride Month. I'm super excited.
Wow, I'm so honored.
The book I brought today is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Sorry if I say that wrong. A little bit about the author before we get into it. So she is an American romance author, and she has a degree in journalism, and she herself is actually openly bisexual. Which is one of the sexualities of the main characters. So I thought that was kind of cute, kind of cool.
Yes.
Good for her. Let's jump into our first little game. So you are going to summarize this book in 30 seconds. But, twist, you have to do it in a list format, just like Alex did. So start with number 1 and do the list. And you can start now.
Okay, so 1, you meet Alex. Him and his sister are going to England for a royal wedding. 2, they're at the wedding and they meet the prince. Alex and the prince don't like each other. They fall on a cake. They get in trouble. 3, later on they have to make nice and pretend to be friends. So Alex goes to England. He's forced to do this, by the way. They make nice. 4, they get locked in a closet together. This is very important, by the way. 5, more gay things happen, and yeah.
Okay, that's good enough.
that was a lot of pressure.
This, honestly, it's really hard to summarize this book in 30 seconds because so much happens.
That's true.
I didn't realize how in-depth this book gets, and we're going to talk about it in a second, but I'm going to summarize this book for anybody who hasn't heard it before. So, this story is about a gay romance between the first son of the United States and the Prince of England, a potential heir to the British throne. As the two men sort out their relationship and eventually brave public opinion by declaring their feelings openly, the novel explores the themes of honoring one's nature, trying to strike a balance between public duty and personal desires, and the value of independence and diversity over conformity. When I first heard of it, I thought it was kind of like fan fiction vibe type deal, and it is, but there is so much to it. There's a lot of political views to it, and a lot of it gets very, very deep.
It does. Parts of this were really intense, and I couldn't take a break. I had to keep listening.
Yeah. So let's just kind of jump right into it. My favorite quote was, "If Alex's mind is a storm, Henry is the lightning that strikes the ground." So it's not a very long quote, it's not a very in-depth quote, but I really like that one because it kind of shows their relationship and how they're kind of codependent of each other, and how Henry anchors Alex to reality, and kind of he's the eye of the storm almost. He calms Alex down a lot. One quote that they also always say is, his mom's always like, "Is he forever? Is he going to be your forever?" And I think that quote right there kind of really simplifies what he thinks of Henry, and I think that right there is when he realized that he was forever type deal. So
I love the deep quotes, but I very much love comic relief in anything, but romance stories specifically. Alex and his sister's friend Nora is hilarious. They have a group chat, and Chaotic Something is her name in the group chat, which I immediately love, but anything that comes out of her mouth is probably my favorite thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of really good lines in this book. It took me a while to figure, and a lot of them was from Nora.
I don't think I could pick a favorite one out of anything that she said, really.
But yeah, to kind of jump into it, I guess I want to start at the beginning of the book. To give a little background, so Alex is the first son of the United States, and the president, Madam President. Yes! A lot of female empowerment in this book, and I love it. But Alex's mom is the president, and this story happens in real life. Obama was the last president. There's people that are actually celebrities in this book, and one thing I found interesting was at the beginning, Alex and his sister June are sitting in the bedroom and, like, taking bets on the tabloids and following them, like, buying the magazines and being like, well, guess what I did last week? And wasn't it, like, a bet, like, $50 if
there was a new scandal with
new scandal or something, yeah. So I found that really funny. I really liked how they opened the scene with that.
I liked how they mentioned, like, all of, like, the former presidents, the rooms that they occupied.
Mm-hmm.
Something about, like, at the beginning, he was somewhere where, like, so there was, like, writing on the walls from, like, the presidential children. Like, they mentioned Malia and Sasha Obama a couple times, I think.
A few times. They said, like, Obama, like, a lot, and one of my favorite things about this was that there was no Trump. It literally went from Obama to Alex's mom.
He's not even here.
Yeah, he didn't exist in this world, and that's a world I want to be in.
Me too.
So, yeah, I really like that. I think it was kind of a good description of, like, Alex's character, that he doesn't really care what other people think, and the tabloids are never real anyways. Like, his relationship with Nora, how they kind of used each other as, like, a beard almost, and how they were always in the news together, but they were never really, like, together in a relationship, so...
Right, they just wanted to make stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, like, another thing I want to talk about was, like, the vibe of this book is very much, like, fan fiction vibe. I got that. It's literally enemies to lovers. And I found it interesting. I thought it was kind of cool that it was in a book format. Good for her. Good for Casey. I'm pretty sure this was, like, a fan fiction, but don't quote me on that.
I do like that you say that it's, like, a fan fiction, because now that I think about it, like, you're 100% right. Because, like, in other books that I've read, there's something that goes, like, extremely wrong. Like, I know in this book there was, but, like, I was waiting for something else, and when that something else happened, it got resolved, like,
quick
in the next chapter.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing there was that kind of, like, separated it from, like, a fan fiction was that there was a lot more than just their relationship.
True.
There was more political stuff. There was more, you know, Henry side, and got that more significant step towards, like, a more quote-unquote realistic book. Not that fan fiction is not actual art, not actual book, but more a step towards that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for her. To jump back in, I just love this story because of the women that are in power. Not only do you have a female president, but you have the Queen of England.
Right.
And then you also have, like, the security guards. Most of them are female. And you have June, who is really stepping up in the story and taking, like, her own stand to her future.
Yes, and then there was one security guard that was, like, kind of more in charge of, like, the kids, Amy.
Amy, yeah.
I think this was just said in, like, passing in the book, but I think she's trans. And
Yeah.
then Nora's, like, one of the smartest people in that book.
Yeah, Nora is absolutely brilliant. She solves, honestly, the entire story at the end, and...
And I love that it's, like, not just that she's smart. She's also chaotic and does whatever she wants.
Nora is a very good character. I found myself very drawn to her. I wish she was in it more, honestly. She didn't get as much spotlight as she should, but I think it kind of focused a little bit more on his sister June, which I wish... I didn't love June, I'm gonna say. I didn't love her. She was okay.
I liked her, but not more than Nora. I loved Nora with my entire soul.
Yeah. Honestly, if he didn't end up with Harry, I would be okay with him ending up with Nora.
For sure.
Yeah. So, not only is the president, you know, a female, her kids are also biracial. Their dad is... Mexican. And they are also divorced, too. So, they come from a very scattered family, I guess you could say. His dad and his mom were married, and then they got divorced, and now she's married to Leo, which, he's so cute. I liked Leo. Well, you didn't like him?
He didn't stand out.
Yeah, he didn't stand out, but he supported her.
He's very supportive.
Yeah, very supportive. I feel like Oscar supported her, but he did it more of his own personal gain type deal, because he was part of the company that helped her, while Leo kind of supports her on a more, like, personal level.
It's more of, like, a switch, so, like, instead of the male being in power and the female's, like, supportive and you only see her a little bit, it switched.
Yeah, he's like a trophy husband.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for all of them. So you know what? We need to talk about Henry a little bit. We talked about Alex a lot. Let's talk about Henry. Oh my god. Okay.
I stan Henry so much.
He's like that cute little boy next door, helps out at the nursing home on the weekends. He's that's kind of what's expected of him at the same time. His brother is he's next in line. And Henry is just something else.
I'm not gonna lie. A little in love with Henry.
Yeah, I can see.
But
I can see where Alex is coming from.
Yeah, yes.
And as I was reading the story, every time Alex was like, I hate this guy. I can't stand this guy. I can't stop thinking about this guy. I literally been staring at his picture since I was 12-year-old. And I'm sitting here like, boy, you are obsessed with this guy. You don't despise him. You're obsessed with him.
Exactly. When they were forced to go on that little, make nice friendship and they got thrown in that closet and they fell on top of each other, I'm like, all right, it's happening.
I know. No, they were at the hospital.
Yeah, they were at the hospital and they were forced into the closet because of...
They thought there was a shooting.
Gunshots.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna literally kiss right now. They never did.
I thought they were, and I was a little disappointed, I'm not gonna lie.
Same. But yeah, so basically what happened was, so they had this wedding. It was Philip's wedding. And they fly over to England, and they see each other at the party. Henry is literally not doing anything. Alex gets mad at him for not doing anything. And then they're bantering back and forth. He's a little drunk. And then
Alex is very drunk.
Okay, he's very drunk. Sorry. And he knocks over the $75,000 cake. Something like that. $75,000 cake. They fall together, and at this point, they're like, we need to make nice because the media is going to eat this up. We can't have two powers being against each other. It looks like it's going to be like a rival. So his mom set up a whole thing for him to go to England for a weekend. As, he's there, he's starting to realize that Henry is just putting on a mask for everybody, that he isn't really so bland and doesn't really have a personality. Because that's what Alex mostly hated about him, is that he didn't have a personality. And that he was just more like a cutout of a person.
Yes, very much no flavor vibes at the beginning of the story.
Yeah, definitely. And then slowly you see him start to open up and be more realistic, more of a real person. So that was really cool. I really like how she did that. Because not only do we see it, Alex gets to see it too.
True.
So I loved when they exchanged phone numbers and then they were calling and texting all the time.
I loved that so much. Even more because it started out by Alex just grabbing his phone and putting his number in there. And I'm like, this. This
is everything. So yeah, who would you say is your favorite character?
Well, I'm sure you already know my answer. I love Nora. However, there is another character that I like almost as much as Nora. Pez. Pez is Harry's...
Beagle?
No.
Oh.
His friend.
Okay. Oh, Pez!
No.
I remember Pez now.
David is Henry's beagle.
Okay, yeah. That's
Pez is Henry's friend. He's very much in love with Alex's sister.
Yeah.
He's incredibly flamboyant.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna lie, I thought he was gay at first, but he likes women. We love a flamboyant straight man, if he is straight.
We won't assume.
I'm not gonna assume, because it was never touched on. However, I love him so much, and I think he should be protected at all costs.
Yes.
And I want to be friends with him.
To kind of branch off what you said, how he's very flamboyant, they're best friends. They're not just friends, they are best friends. And I think that he kind of was flamboyant for Henry's sake, that Henry couldn't be anything. He had to wear, bland clothes, and he had to have a bland room. And I think Pez kind of does it for Henry, so that way Henry can kind of see that he's doing it and be like, this is okay, especially later on. So
that just rocked my world. I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, Pez is a really good character. I loved them all at the karaoke scene. The karaoke scene was solid. That's the first night where everyone was kind of themselves and felt like actual early 20s and weren't seen as these political leaders. They were just people. And, Henry gets on the stage and he's screaming. What was the song he sang?
Was it Rocket Man or something? No, it was something by
No, it was,
No, it was something by David Bowie. I remember because they said David Bowie's last name as Bowie.
Bowie, yeah. Because his dog is named after David Bowie. So he's obsessed with David. Yeah, he sang a song. I can't right now remember what it was. Yeah, he was screaming that to the top of his lungs, and you just see Alex falling for him even more. It was so cute. It was such a good scene. My favorite character, I do really like Henry. He gave me a lot, and he was running with it, and I love it. But I have to say my favorite was Zara, the security guard. She was Alex's mom's security guard, and she has been with that family since Alex was 5, so almost 20 years, and she's very, very loyal, so loyal. And so her relationship with Sean, who is Henry's security guard, so cute, so secretive. She literally was like, made an off comment that she had a boyfriend, and Alex freaked out and was like, what do you mean you have a boyfriend? How do you have time? You're always around us. How do you have time to see other people? And then she got engaged to Sean. And, you know, I think it's kind of cute because Henry and Alex are the ones that brought them together, because, you know, they were constantly seeing each other. I feel like they were seeing each other like 5 times a week, and one lives in Washington, D.C., the other one lives in freaking London.
I loved that relationship. Something that stuck out in my head when you mentioned those two, when they brought Alex over while it was the royals weren't saying anything. It was like the morning, and Zara and Shane high-fived because they said something about having sex last night. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the scene right after they were outed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that whole scene because
Lord.
That was crazy. We're going to get into it, but can we talk about the turkey scene for a second? The turkey scene! That was the moment Henry fell in love.
Yeah.
It was obviously Thanksgiving, and Alex was like, why are you spending these tax dollars money to put these turkeys in a hotel room? Put them in my room. And his mom was like, okay. So he has 2 turkeys in his room, both in cages, and he's freaking out, and he thinks the turkeys are going to kill him. So he calls Henry, and they are on the phone almost all night. And it was so cute. And then there was the selfie of him in bed with David, and it was just like...
That first phone conversation,
Yeah, that was the first time they talked to the phone, right? Because he wanted to hear the turkey's noises, like them like making the gobble gobble sound.
The only other one that pops in my head is when the dad came over and they were having the family dinner.
Well, because that was
later.
Christmas. Yeah, that was Christmas.
Okay, then that was the first one.
Yeah. I love that scene. I was, like, giggling, but also fangirling at the same time. It was really cute. To kind of go back, I feel like Casey kind of writes June and Alex as somebody that doesn't have siblings. If that makes sense. They're too gushy with each other, and I hated the nickname Bug. I hated it so much. I think that he said it too much was the issue. He was constantly calling her Bug, and I didn't like it.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I loved their relationship, because I know not all siblings are that close, but I've definitely witnessed in person, like, siblings being that close. I think it's cute. Sometimes the childhood, like, nicknames stick.
Yeah.
My little brother still calls me Timmy, even though he's 17 and I'm 22.
Right.
Everyone calls me either Timmy or T, so, like, I understand the...
Not me. I call you Timberly.
My Christian name.
Yeah.
So I think it's different than, like, writing as someone who's never had a sibling before. That's like those TV shows where it's like, hey, what's up, bro? Oh, not much, sis.
Yeah. I understand to the point where they pretty much had each other because they do come from, like, a broken home. Like, so I understand to a point that they have each other, but I don't know. I think they were just, like, a little too close at some points. Maybe because they all grew up in the White House with Nora, so they all were kind of the trio.
Yeah, I think it's because they didn't have a lot of friends. They didn't have an opportunity to make friends, so spending so much time together, you either love each other or hate each other. There's no in between, so... And
their parents already hate each other,
so there's got to be some love there.
Exactly. So they had to go somewhere with it. So one thing I didn't love about this story... I know it makes sense for the story, but what I didn't love was how political everything was. yes, I do know this is about the first son of the U.S. and a Prince of England, but there was a lot of parts that just went on and on and on, and just dove too deep into history. And like, I know Alex loves history, but I think it was just like just a tad bit too much. I feel like they could have drawn back, just give the information they needed for the election at the end, and explain that. But when they were going into, like, the history of, like, the rooms, for example, every room had its own history, and yes, that's beautiful, but it doesn't need to be in this story. Like, let's just stick to the gay romance.
I thought it was kind of nice just to, like, as a reminder that this is based off of, like, a real building, like, real circumstances, just like the main characters aren't real.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was cute because, like, it helped me imagine more what the rooms looked like, helped, like, fuel my imagination just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I loved how he mentioned, like, what person this room belonged to when they were here, and, like, going around, they'd mentioned, like, different political figures throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm just not that much of a history buff, I guess, so to me, I was just like, there was some parts that kind of just went on for a little too long. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I think that was cool in the aspect of every room had its own characteristics, and it was kind of cool because in the end, Alex and Henry got to make their own, like, history in those rooms. So, like, at the end when they win the election and they're walking out on the balcony, and it's the first time that the Prince of England and the first son were holding hands. And I don't know. It was cute. And to draw back in, it's a lot of parts where I was like, is this really happening? Like, this felt real. Like, it was so realistic. Like, it's a very modern story, and you can think of any character, they probably said it in this book. They said, oh, you know, the cast of Stranger Things were at the party one time. And I was like, what? Stranger Things.
Right.
And
it did sound really real. Like, I was like, interesting. Mm-hmm. Is this a biography? Or is this like...
Is this nonfiction? Hold on.
Oh, that's what it's called, nonfiction.
Yeah. It's like the author was kind of warping her own reality to make, you know, this story more believable, but also better because it's them
instead of what's actually going on.
And there was no Trump in this story, and she was
no Trump, no COVID.
No COVID, nothing. She was living in a perfect world. I mean, this was back in 2017. They didn't even think about COVID at the time.
I thought they mentioned 2020 by the end of the book.
Yeah, she wrote this book in 2017. Yeah. Right after
well, even though we didn't know about it,
it's not there.
It's nice that it's not there.
So, who would you say is your favorite relationship in the story?
I can't choose one, so I'm going to list a couple.
Okay.
So, obviously, I stan Alex and Henry.
Obviously. Come on.
OTP, my favorite couple.
Mm-hmm.
Love them to pieces. I really like the relationship between Nora and Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Because they did date, but now they're just friends, best friends, and they tried to mess with the tabloids. Mm-hmm. All the time, like, pretending to have sex in hotel rooms.
Yeah. Well, they're, like, watching TV or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the conversation that Alex had with Nora when he realized his sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
That conversation gave me so much life.
That was a really good scene. Really good scene. Probably, like, top 5 scenes.
Yes.
So.
And then Zara. Any interaction with Zara and Alex just made me so happy because I'm like, this chef's kiss. I just love how Zara's like, I don't give a fuck what you want. This is what's happening, so just do it.
It's great because has been with Alex since he was 5. So she's literally a part of the family. She's like an aunt or stepmom at this point. Like
she's the really buff, dangerous aunt.
Yeah, oh my god, she's like from Hannah Montana. Roxy, like
Roxy. Oh my god.
That's literally what she is.
Roxy.
She's Roxy, bro.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Roxy like a puma. Absolutely. Oh my god. I wish they need to make this into a movie and they need to cast her as
oh, yes,
Roxy.
they do.
So my favorite relationship, I would have to say, would be like the security guards with the boys. So Zara with Alex, Sean with Henry. And as we've already said, they're just like, I don't know, they just have a really good dynamic. They are all very protective of them. Obviously, that's their job, but it felt more like, it didn't feel like a job to them. It felt like something that it wasn't required. They just wanted to protect them because they just love them so much. So
I love that kind of relationship, though, like that whole relationship, like the retainer and the royal. Instead of just like a guard, that's their retainer, like that's their bodyguard that's with them 24/7. So they get to know each other. They're like, okay, they're not so formal anymore. It's just like they're friends now. Yeah,
I think, was it Sean the first one that found out about Henry and Alex, or was it Zara?
Yeah, it was Sean, because Zara that's how she got that big diamond ring.
That's right, because he was like, because he didn't tell her, so she's like, well, I guess we gotta get engaged, because that makes sense. But yeah, I really like them. I thought they had a really good dynamic. So one big thing that this story kind of covers is goals and dreams. So the difference between like a realistic future and one that they want. And for each person it's different. Like for June, for example, her mom wants her to be part of her campaign and like help, because she's really good at writing, so she wants her to be like writing out her speeches. And June's like, no, I want to be a journalist. Yeah, she wants to be a journalist, but she's worried because no one's giving her the time of day, because they give her all these fluff pieces because they think that she bought her way into getting a degree and everything. So I thought she was kind of cool, and I really like at the end where she wrote the speech for her mom and of her winning speech, and her mom was like, I need you to write, my speech if I don't become the president. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. You are becoming the president. And I was like, yes, queen. Yeah. And then you have like Alex, who he has a lot of hopes and dreams, a lot of them. I guess a big one was he wants to be a politician because that's what he's kind of been born and raised to do. And in the end, when he meets Henry, did I call him Harry?
You did.
Oops. Harry Styles got in my head. No, when he meets Henry, it kind of changes because, to be a politician, you can't have these kind of desires that is quote-unquote frowned upon in society. So when he meets Henry, that all kind of changes. And he's like, I don't know if I want to be a politician anymore.
That entire time when, like, the fluffy parts where they're, like, being really good together, I'm like, okay, you don't be a politician anymore. Just move to England. Be the new queen.
Be a stableman.
Stop.
No. But no. So and then we have like Henry, who his one was just sad. He wants to be a good role model. He wants to
be a writer.
He wants to be a writer, and he's in this family that obviously everything is strict. Everything's written in stone. Everything cannot be changed, and it's really hard for him because as a gay man, he doesn't have a lot of room to kind of follow any sort of dreams. He has to abide by what the queen says, pretty much. And even at the end, she really wasn't supportive of his relationship. And on a side, I want to see it as that she was trying to be protective and try to help him. But the other side, it felt very selfish, and she was very much set in stone on her beliefs. So
no, I definitely do think like the queen was like
the queen and Philip, both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex's parents being so supportive, that's showing like families can actually be supportive of their children being gay. And then on Henry's side, it's like the old school values. Like the queen even said at one point, I know my country. This isn't what my country wants. And Henry's mom was like, so the country can't change?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's the same time, it's like you can't keep hiding behind these values because then nothing is going to change. Exactly. You have to kind of fight against them to get any kind of like friction, or everything's going to stay exactly how it is. Like you have to fight against it. And I'm really glad at the end, well, we're going to talk about it right after this, but the ending was something else. But I'm glad at the end that you do get to see all this support, and let's talk about it right now. So at the end, they did talking over the phone, but they also did a whole email chain, kind of like a Love, Simon moment, where they're kind of going back and forth in their relationship, and they're having these very intimate, very sacred conversations, and they get very, very romantic, and it's very deep. Henry's a writer, so
right.
you know that they're beautifully written. And this boy didn't buy a VPN, so now... So obviously, his emails get hacked and are shared across the world. And this is the moment that the world now knows that Alex is bisexual, because he has said it in this email, and that Henry is gay. So everything kind of falls apart. Alex gets on the 7th million ride to London, and they're just trying to figure it out. Everything kind of goes crazy, and they're literally in this room talking with Henry's family. The Queen is there. And I like the conversation we said, she doesn't support it. It's not, her country isn't going to support them. And all of a sudden, is it on his phone, right? He gets a
B
message.
has her tablet, and she puts her tablet in front of the older brother Philip and the Queen to show, that's not true.
Yeah. And then Henry Moms goes and opens the window, and there's just a flood of people outside supporting.
There were t-shirts.
There was t-shirts. There was this huge flood of support, and Alex is there, obviously, because he has to be. And, they're overwhelmed, and he eventually has to go back home, and he's driving back to the airport, and there's this mural painted of them within hours of Henry and Alex in each other's arms as characters from Star Wars.
As Han and Leia.
I don't know
because
who
they
were.
Okay, well, I'll tell y'all. When they were doing that first make nice trip, Alex found out Henry liked Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So in their letters, I think Henry said something about he liked the relationship between Han Solo and Princess Leia. So down the line, Alex was like, well, I'm definitely Han, and you're definitely Leia. And Henry's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right.
And obviously people read their emails, so they painted that mural for them. So I thought that was just really cute. And I hated that. That hurt me when the emails got released. I was like, I didn't even think about it. And I guess I could see why Alex didn't get a VPN, because I didn't even think about, hey, these are... For a split second, I was like, this doesn't feel very safe.
It was the secure thing, because the email that he was sending it from was E. Claremont, which is Ellen Claremont, his mom. And I loved those letters because I believe it was they always talked about different historical people, or in stories where they were in love and they would send letters back and forth. I believe at the end of each email they would quote someone like that, which I thought was adorable.
Yeah, it was really cute. And some of the quotes were got really deep.
So did their emails.
Yeah. So let's play a little game. So since we're talking about different countries, we're talking about United Kingdom and the United States, I'm gonna ask you a political thing, and
Stop.
You're gonna tell me if it's United States or United Kingdom. I'm gonna be honest. I had to look these up because I don't know anything about politics, and I looked it up on a child's political website.
Stop.
So they're not very hard. Don't worry.
I don't know anything about politics either.
Let's begin. So we has a monarchy.
Oh, well, UK.
Very good.
Thanks.
Has a federal government.
US.
Very good. Elected every 4 years.
That's the US.
Started with a constitution.
That's the US.
Yep. Laws are done by the parliament.
Okay, that's UK. That's a fancy word. Mm-hmm. Parliament.
Powers appointed to the Prime Minister.
That's gotta be the UK. Prime Minister?
Yep. And then powers are divided in branches.
Okay, that's the US.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to ask me questions about, like, laws or something, and I was like, oh no.
I don't know anything. I was going to do laws like, is it legal to drive a tractor at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday in Utah?
Is it legal to open carry a katana in Texas during a wedding? I don't know.
I don't know. There's crazy laws. If you're ever bored, just look up weird laws in the U.S. There's so many. So, another thing I want to talk about is the election at the end. I really liked how Casey did a lot of, like, back and forth. Like, when she was kind of describing the voting process and how... So they're from Texas, and she was saying how Texas hasn't gone blue in so long. And I really like how Casey kind of described the fight between it going red and blue. And I really like the suspense at the end, too, when you're seeing if she's going to get reelected for another 4 years.
And I like that Texas became blue for the first time in forever.
Forever, yeah, slay.
I mean, good for her.
We'll never see it, but
no.
it's alright.
So, I mean...
It's not alright, but we'll figure it out.
Once the gays take over, it'll happen.
Yeah, I really like the election scene. I think it was a good way to obviously end the story, and it was a good sending off point. Because, you know, you got another 4 years, you got Alex coming out as bisexual, you have Henry coming out as gay, and also moving to... Or he didn't move to the U.S., but he got the homeless shelters...
Yeah, and was it in, like, New Jersey or something?
It was close by, the Bronx or something,
yeah.
I don't know. It was close by, but he doesn't have to spend another, $1 billion on airfare to go to London, so... In your own opinion, was there anything that you would say was kind of like a missed opportunity? Anything you would have changed in this book?
I don't think there's much I would have changed. What I do want, however, though, is a second, not-so-large book. Because this was... 17 chapters?
Yeah, I didn't realize. It was like 400 pages. I didn't realize it was this long.
I just want to read more about their relationship post-election. Because I can't tell you how much I fangirled when they first kiss. I was listening to the audiobook. I stood up and I had to, like, walk circles around my house. I was like, oh my god, this is not happening.
There's sometimes I forget that they were even, like, physical. Because, I don't know, maybe I focused too much on, like, the outside stuff, and I wish there was more of their relationship. But yeah, I agree. There needs to be... I mean, you could probably go on AO3 right now and find a bunch of fan fiction.
Oh,
so
I hope.
You can go right ahead and dive right into that rabbit hole.
Oh, no.
Alone.
Oh, alone.
I'm not going with you.
Oh, no.
Sorry. So the only thing I would change is... There's two things that bothered me. One, the scenes ended very abruptly. It would be in the middle of the scene, they would say a quote, and then it would just stop and start a new scene. I didn't love that. It felt like the rug was kind of, like, pulled out from underneath me, and I was like, okay, we're going a different direction now. But that's just her writing style, I understand. The other thing is, I wish they were a little bit more enemies. I felt like it was more like Alex kind of projecting onto Henry, because he was kind of hiding his sexuality, and didn't really know it, but I feel like it was kind of a lame excuse, like, he hated him because he didn't have a personality. Okay, let's give him a reason why to actually hate him. Did he do something that Alex didn't like? Did he say something against his family? Like, give him an actual reason.
Well, there was the Olympics. He was a dick to him.
Yeah, he said, get him away from me. Okay, if Alex came up to me, I would say that too.
Hold up, I would have been butthurt. I would have been like, is this royal bitch, no flavor, telling me to get out of his face?
Mr. Flavortown? Come on. Okay, he said one thing on a side note that he didn't even want him to say. He should have said it straight to his face, then I would have accepted it a little bit more. Like, hey, get away from me. Then okay, then I understand why you're mad. But he said it under his breath.
He is an emotional person. Leave him alone.
I'm just saying.
Let him have his feelings.
But yeah, other than that, it was a good book.
It was a very good book. This is probably my favorite book that I've read in a long time.
Thank you.
I haven't read many books in a long time.
I got
However, the last book I read was like The Sun is Also a Star. That was
I haven't read that one.
Ideas.
You're coming back? Yeah, so before we go, is there anything you want to talk about? Anything we didn't come across that you want to bring up?
If y'all like gay relationships, read this book, because I read this book all today before I came over here to talk to her about it. best decision I ever made because I was reliving these parts I was fangirling. It was a long-term fan fiction, all in one book. It was Chef's Kiss.
Chef's Kiss.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a very thick book, so a lot happens, and as we're talking about it, I'm remembering things that happen, and it's definitely worth a couple reads, like, because you can go through and just, like, find new things that you kind of missed the first time around, and I would definitely recommend listening to the audiobook. They do some really cool accents.
They do. I am not gonna lie, and able to get through this entire audiobook today. I listened to it at 1.7 times speed.
How?
I don't know how I retained all this information through that. High school Tim kicked in, and it's like, but the accents at that speed were hilarious.
I might have to go and listen to it again and put it on that speed.
I think you should.
But yeah, before we go, we do a different rating scale here on the podcast. We kind of make up our own. I can go first if you want. So I would rate Red, White, and Royal Blue 6 out of 10 plane rides from the US to London in 1 week. I liked it. There was a couple things that I didn't love. You can re-listen to this podcast if you didn't listen to it before. That discuss what I didn't like about it. But I do love a good gay romance. So that's what I would rate it. How about you?
Okay. I'd give it 9 out of 10 times of Prince Henry being a bottom. I wasn't expecting it, I'm not gonna lie.
True. We love it. 9 out of 10 of Alex being a top.
Stop.
Alright, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
On this glorious Pride Month.
With all of our guys, gals, and non-binary pals.
Yes. Tim, thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Tim will be back in the future. Don't worry. Keep an eye out for that episode. And yeah, this was fun.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for turning the pages with us this week. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support on social media. Don't forget to turn on your notifications to get a reminder of the next episode. Thanks again for listening to The Book Stop. Bye!